So here's another story. This is more political. It's kind of crazy. It's Elon Musk again. Newsweek reports Elon Musk says he'll vote Republican for the first time in the next election. Elon Musk, one of us. What's it? Google Gobble? Google Gobble, Elon Musk. Yeah. If I see him shortly, I will tell him Google Gobble.
Yes.
Do you guys know that reference?
It's from a really old movie.
Freaks?
Yeah.
Where the woman is like at the table and all the people are going, Google Gobble. They're playing on the table. One of us. So Elon Musk, he basically said, I have voted overwhelmingly for Democrats historically. Like, I'm not sure. I might never have voted for a Republican, just to be clear. Now, this election, I will. Newsweek says they're not sure if it's the midterms of the 2024 presidential election, which is a weird thing to add considering he said the next election, which is literally the midterms, but sure, whatever. Elon Musk has continually been posting memes about either the left losing the middle, the left going too far left, or of him being like, yo, I'm a moderate and this doesn't speak to me and things like that. It's interesting now. I tweeted, maybe the left should stop and reflect on why they're losing so many people. They won't do it. The responses I got were people saying like, the ultra rich guy who doesn't want to pay taxes. No, of course he wants to be a Republican.
That's why all the billionaires are constantly promoting right-wing policy.
That's right.
Well, but real quick. Since 2012, as we've covered on this show extensively, Democrats have been the party of the wealthy. It's been reiterated in 2021 with more data showing higher income earners are aligned with the Democratic Party. Elon Musk just paid more taxes than anyone's ever paid in history. And why didn't he vote 4 years ago Republican when he was already when he's still a billionaire?
I've seen everyone from my broke jiu-jitsu friends to people who have health podcasts over COVID, over Trump because of the Twitter wokeness, slowly go more and more to the right. You know, people wanted me to go sort of like full right-wing actual grifter after my cancellation happened, and I didn't do it. And so when I talk about this stuff, I'm actually talking about it from the left. I, as someone who is still fairly liberal, sees the left being pushed farther and farther away because it wasn't Republicans who were shutting down their businesses or gyms over COVID. It wasn't, you know, I have friends who they're professional athletes and suddenly it was Donald Trump saying to go outside and exercise and Democrats saying if you go for a walk, you're going to, you know, kill your aunt or whatever. All the wokeness, all my comedy friends who love Dave Chappelle. And even if they don't agree with everything Dave Chappelle says, suddenly it's the left trying to censor their favorite comedians who, you know, I mean, God, when I was watching Chappelle in New York, he was going after Bush, going after the war in Iraq, like talking about the war on drugs. Like he's always been a liberal dude. I'm watching these people go from disenfranchised, I'm sick of the left, I guess I'm not really a Democrat, maybe I'm independent, to a lot of them just going, you know what, conservatives are cooler right now. I'm gonna go. I did a show in Houston and there were these three little goth kids in the front row and they were tattooed and they were like 21 or something, and I asked them, I thought they were super liberal. I'm like, what's it like being liberal in Houston? And they were like, nah, F that, man, we're conservatives. And I was like, you look like undercover Antifa agents. Like, what is happening?
Like, yo, bro, watch this PragerU video. You're like, what?
Yeah, you want to go do DMT and talk about the free market? Like, it was that. And it's like, yeah, man, we are pushing these people away. Like, it has nothing to do with privilege or wealth. Like, I'm talking to normal people. I've lived in Arizona and Texas the last couple of years, not in Brooklyn, not in Los Angeles. And yeah, and their grievances are valid. I don't know if that would make me full conservative, but the stuff that pushed them away, I don't disagree with.
Are you sure? Are you sure the left is pushing them away, or maybe Turning Point USA is just making really good memes?
That's it.
That's probably it.
I got to tell you.
That's what it is.
It was 6 months ago that I was a hardcore socialist,
Yeah.
authoritarian, you know, just absolutely. And I wore uniforms every day. And then Charlie Kirk smiled at me, and I was like a bolt of lightning.
Oh my God, it was another James O'Keefe setup, dude. Why'd you let Charlie Cook smile at you like that? They got you.
They got me. Got me. No, this is interesting because, like, the left, in my opinion, has gone absolutely insane. And it's exemplified in a lot of ways. One, I love playing this video from the Juice Media. It's an old video from 2020.
I briefly thought you said from the Jew media, and I was like, "Well, here we go.
Whoa, what's going on?
This is the episode." My last name is Kilstein. Everyone, calm down.
You're like, I'm coming here not to get canceled.
Good work.
All right, well, let's play it. Hit up the Jew media, everybody.
The Juice.
Juice.
Yeah. They're actually like
Orange
they
juice.
do produce a lot of progressive stuff today. But there's this guy Hugo Ferrand. I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong, Hugo. He did a thing called Rap News. And Rap News 6 is about Cablegate with Julian Assange. In this video, They're defending the release of, effectively defending the release of the cables from WikiLeaks, criticizing Hillary Clinton as the secretary, keeping secrets in the public, and threatening to prosecute Assange because Australia's in the American empire and they control this stuff. Alex Jones is in it, screaming that the globalist, commie Nazi fascists are coming.
Hell yeah.
So that depiction of Jones is the 10 years ago when he was like, the government is evil and they're trying to take over. Now they're claiming he is a Nazi. He says in the end, they're trying to turn back the clock